let me just share my truth. Let me just share what I've been in through this industry. And maybe some people would say that they've never done anything before, but how we've all have some sort of relation and relatability to the fact that owning our shit and how scary that is, and walking with our fear and changing the relationship we have with our fear is actually going to turn your insecurities, your shame into power and into unapologetic self-expression.
Shit's about to go down. I'm feeling something in my spirit.
Chats and Tatts with Aaron Della Vedova.
Hello, friends, neighbors, lovers of art and creativity. Welcome back to Chats and Tatts with me, your host, Aaron Della Vedova. My guest today is a tattoo artist, and I just found this out during our interview, but she crossed this line that is like a line in the sand that in my industry is like the no-fly zone. For sure. It's crazy what happened, but what inspired her to do in her own life, the healing that she went through because of it, the reparations that she made because of this event, and then what she became after this event, extremely inspiring. I think it's she sets an example for, who out there listening right now hasn't fucked up? We've all fucked up. What you do afterwards means a lot. Some people never want to talk about it again, deny it ever happened. Others own it, make reparations. She did that. And it also spurred her on into the work that she does today. So in a way, it was almost necessary. And she'll tell you that herself. So with all that being said, please welcome my guest today, Reese Hilburn. All right, here you are.
Here I am.
No, this has been something you've been on my mind for a while. I've been watching a lot of the things you're doing on Instagram. And you know, that's just Instagram. But over a course of a couple months, I just really felt inspired by a lot of the things you were saying on there. And then Ryan Roy was in here, who's another super inspirational guy. And he, on his way out, was like, you got to look up Reese. Oh. So those two things came together. That was a sign to me, and I hit you up. You said you could be here, and here we are.
I know. Well, it's not too hard because I'm just down the street. So
yeah, San Marcos. For those of you who aren't, so that's down here, just right here by San Diego, where we are currently. I want to take a second to thank my sponsor, Sullen Clothing. If you guys are lovers of tattoo art or art in general and would like to see that on your favorite t-shirt or hoodie, you got to go over there to check out sullenclothing.com. Ryan and Jeremy, huge supporters of the tattoo industry, huge supporters of this show, great human beings, good friends of mine. So thank you for tuning in. And now back to the show. You are a spiritual business mentor. You are a tattoo artist of 13 years. You own your own studio, The Edge Inc. out in San Marcos. You're a meditation queen. I like the way you put that. And there's many other layers to that. And that's really probably what we're going to get into, about you and what you do today. But maybe just to get people buttered up and warmed up, you could tell us a little bit about how it all started. How you got into this industry, where your journey began, and what led you to be a spiritual business mentor.
Yeah. Let's see. I actually never drew a day in my life. And when I was a kid, I didn't think my dad was an entrepreneur, and how unstable my mom saw that. She was like, get a corporate job, do the corporate thing. Don't be your dad, which is so funny because I ended up becoming an entrepreneur later. So I did what my mom did, and very Filipino woman. It was either nursing or finance. And I chose finance because I tried the nursing thing in blood. I just it's not a vibe for me. Deep red blood. And so I went and got my finance degree.
Yeah, just to clarify, not the blood that comes when you tattoo people.
Not that kind of blood. That's just like plasma. It's just plasma at that point.
Not someone shooting out of their carotid artery onto your face. That's a different level. But I hear you. Okay.
Yeah. And so, that's a whole other story. But so I got into corporate. I finance, CPA, private accountant for an up-and-coming company. And one day, I was already heavily tattooed. I was the Hot Topic manager for a long time, during college. And then I left college and went into as a CPA. And after that, we went to like a company morale, and we did a wine and paint night. And I actually found out I could paint. And I sold my first painting for $500 that night. I don't know if the guy was hitting on me, but I made money, and it put a seed in my brain that I had something. So I quit my job cold turkey, lived in my car for 6 months so that I could really pursue art. And I went to fine art school. And then from there, I had looked for tattoo apprenticeships, and it was 3 years. And I remember getting all of the different kinds of, you're a girl, girls can't tattoo, girls can't draw. I was getting
God.
I got, my favorite one was, you're too pretty, my wife wouldn't like that you work here. And that's I was like, okay, I don't want to work anywhere where I'm going to
At least
make.
that one might have been true.
Yeah, at least that. And I'm like, okay, at least thank you for at least like alleviating a situation that I don't want to be a part of. Yeah. And so finally I was like, I almost gave up. I was like almost on like think my year 3 in art school, and I was really planning to be a art teacher and art history teacher, go get my master's degree. And that was kind of that until someone asked me if I wanted to become a tattoo artist at an art show. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. I was already doing colored pencil portraits and painting portraits. So that was kind of like what I really loved. I love portraiture.
It should be noted, I've seen a lot of your work. Really good work,
Thank
by the
you
way.
so
Beautiful
much.
work.
Thank you.
You're a, I would call it a color realist tattooer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful portraits in color and other realistic objects, but really good stuff.
Thank you so much.
Got to be probably, I'm a 32-year tattooer. I've seen it all, and I don't do that, and I've, I have some realism in my work, but when I'm getting close to that, it's the most difficult tattooing there is.
Oh, it's so funny. It's always been like I always absolutely loved it, and I think now as I've evolved and shifted, the 13 years of being in being in this industry, it's like it becomes true. Like it's almost like I don't know. There's something about it that feels really honoring of the. It's almost like an alter ego that the person wears at this point. That's what I'm creating instead of it just being like some portrait of a warrior woman. It's like, oh no, this is me. This is my alter ego, and so I've really fallen into that love for accentuating someone's almost like their face and putting it on their bodies in the way that they're just like, this is how I see myself almost. And so it's
that's
really
cool.
beautiful.
So you do a lot of portraits where it might be the person themselves, but just completely modified to show their spirit animal coming out or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
The way that they would like to be, like the dream of them in the future.
Yes.
You're putting their future on them so they can have a clearer picture of where they're headed.
I kind of look at it from like a highest self perspective. They're like, oh, this is the mirror image of my highest self.
Yeah.
And they see themselves, and it's a lot of entrepreneurial women, go figure. I tend to attract those where they're like wearing warrior women with like, wolf headdresses and warrior paint. And it's just like, and I always whenever they ask me for those, and I get it a lot, it's like, I'm like, can you just send me a picture of yourself? And they're like, why? And I'm like, no, just a little, and I always put like little things that I'll feature about them just because I feel like that's really the story we're telling, is because that's why they would get something like that.
That's cool.
And it just like amplifies who they desire to be, which is the whole point of like what I represent is like authenticity and and full unapologetic self-expression.
That's cool. That's cool. So I got you off track. You're at an art show.
Yep.
Somebody asks you, hey, you want to be a tattooer? And you're like, hell yeah, let's go.
Hell yeah, let's go. And I end up realizing that this shop is, run by very particular human beings that I just don't want to like call out or anything like that. They might be listening, but just run by really, really rad guys that had really rough lives. And so with that being said, I learned a lot about the ways of tattooing that I wasn't like, I didn't know anything. So I was more of like, just teach me how to tattoo. I've been desiring to be in this tattoo industry. And finally, when they were like, I got in there, they were like, well, Reese, you should just get to tattooing. So I really didn't even have like a formal apprenticeship. They were like, you already draw so well. You're in art school. Like, it's just
here's
putting
a machine.
Here's a machine. Here's a person. Literally one of the guys, and it wasn't one mentor. It was like the whole shop was my mentor. And one guy was like, oh, here, Reese, hands me his machine on a guy, a boy, like a man that was just sitting there, and he goes, oh yeah. He's like, let me see your art. Yeah, I'll let you tattoo me. He was already getting tattooed by the guy, and I was like, I was scared shitless.
Right
I was
into
like,
the fire.
please no. And ended up doing my first tattoo. Was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I got this. And then honestly, it just kind of went, I have a career that went by really different than I think most tattoo artists have been able to have. And one of which was being on tattoo television. Like,
that's right. What show were you on again?
I was on Tattoo Nightmares Miami. It It was a show based off of the regular Tattoo Nightmares up in LA, and they wanted to do like a spinoff in Miami. So I'm, I don't even know how I got it. I remember being there with a bunch of I think at this point, this was season 3 of Ink Masters and stuff there. So there were a lot of Ink Master people there. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting this. And somehow I didn't realize that it wasn't based on your tattoos, that it was based on your personality. At the time was like, there's no way I'm getting this. Ended up getting it.
And how long had you been tattooing before you went on the show?
I was tattooing for about 1.5 years. And at this point,
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. It was, and I didn't know. And at this point, before I had even really had gotten like started, I remember just being so nervous and like feeling not good enough and feeling like I shouldn't even be here and unworthy. And I actually, when I got on the tattoo television show, I received a lot of like hate. And it was just like, why are you even here? Why you're not even a good tattooer? And it became this whole like self-deprecating situation for me. And so when I got home and was susceptible to everything that was happening around me. I remember a couple of guys at my shop just being like, you're an amazing artist, and feeling this sense of like, gosh, this is like this this whole like almost like this sense of like, I shouldn't be here. I should quit tattooing. I remember even thinking this like when I got home from the filming, and this was like the first time we had gone out to go filming, and they were just like, don't believe them. You're an amazing tattooer. And I just kept trying to hear that until email and DMs and things like this and comments were just kind of weighing on me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just remembering myself 1.5 years into tattooing, and the anxiety and the not worthy, and I mean, I don't all tattooers, but then to have that put on a nationally syndicated television show, just to be tattooing with cameras around you, knowing it's going to air. I mean, wow, that would be immense pressure.
Yeah.
And then, of course there's going to be hate. I mean, hell, back then, anyone who went on a show was hated just for going on a show.
Yeah, actually, that's a really solid point because of the fact that, if you went on a tattoo television show, you were not a real tattooer.
A lot of people hated those dudes.
Oh my gosh.
And women.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was another tattoo television show that I had gone on that had invited me to go on, but I actually said no before I said yes to the Tattoo Nightmares show. And it was a Tattoos After Dark, I think it was. And that was like, it was like a really, really bad show. And when you'd watch it, it was like everybody.
They want to get a late night seedy shop.
Basically,
what kind of
in
crazy,
Venice Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, if you wanted some drama, it'd be a good setup.
That was exactly what I think it was.
Yeah.
I think like Best Ink could just come out, and then like obviously Ink Master and these other like side end tattoo shops, like the Vegas cover up shows and the Tattoo Nightmare cover up shows. Like it's like they were just trying to like feed into what's happening in the industry and kind of just like have fun with it, I suppose. But it's just interesting how much it's changed over the years. How
now you can go on the show and it's honorable. No one really, I mean, there's still some haters, but it's not like it was. But you're on that, you're making the point, like the pressure must have been immense.
Yeah.
And then to get hate, DMs or whatever at such a young age in tattooing. And you're questioning, should I even be here?
Yeah.
Do I suck? Yeah. So go on from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of went into a whirlwind of rockstar lifestyle. You went rockstar lifestyle. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm being invited to all of these things. South America loved the TV show. I went there and I've never felt like a Backstreet Boy before in my life, but I felt like one because I had 3 security guards just walk me to the bathroom. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So it became this sense of like trying to escape from my own reality of the online space. And, and then all of a sudden it just was like, you start to try and like mask. You start to try and become a person that they desire you to be.
Yeah.
And this was actually when I started posting tattoos that were not mine.
You mentioned this earlier, and you said you were going to get into this. And I first of all want to say it's incredibly brave of you to be this authentic and honest about your career. Mm-hmm. But there were circumstances. It wasn't like you just woke up and decided to do this.
No.
I think you should add those circumstances.
Yeah. And the circumstances were the fact that my shop, bless their hearts, they were so defensive of what was happening. And they knew I was an amazing artist. They were like, Reese, just post tattoos that you can do. You just need a chance to do it. And in my mind, I knew it was absolutely not right. But at the same time, I was so I would say along the lines there was no self-love there. Not any that I could actually own. Maybe it was faked. But there was no sense of respect even for myself at that moment, that all I wanted it was for people to just like me. And when we're in an age when social media, especially, I'm 36 going on 37 soon here, and it's like one of those things where you just kind of get pushed into a place where you just desire to be liked. And social media is kind of one of those addictive dopamine hits that makes you want to feel, and the currency is being liked. And when you're being hated on so much, when you feel like you're like, I know that there's something in me that's going to create something great. And, if I were to tell any artist now, I'd be like, just put in the work and don't look outward. Of course, that's what we would tell ourselves, or we tell someone else. But in this moment, from the justification I was getting from my shop, plus the fear and basically just like the fear and the judgment I had of myself and the people that were around me, I said, okay. And when I said okay, I was like, I remember very clearly being like, just get your own pieces. Once it's done, delete them. And I never deleted it. I don't know why. I think in part of me just wanted it to be like a part of my portfolio. And it's funny because after years had gone by, I had put out beautiful work. I was very successful in the eyes of like tattooers. I was actually getting love done after this. I was traveling the world. I was being booked out everywhere I went. It was amazing. And then 2016 rolls around, and somehow, don't know how, but someone finds these photos, and they're like, this isn't yours. Contacts the artist, who's actually pretty well known. I didn't know that at the time. I'm sure he got well known over the years. And he reposted it. And he was like, look what this girl's doing. And I was at the height of my career. I was actually at the Brazilian consulate getting my Brazilian visa so that I could go to a convention to Brazil, because I was invited by these promoters who were going to fly me out, put me up, and do the whole thing. And I was like, I'm on top of the world. I'm feeling like a rock star. And then I get a call and they're like, have you checked Instagram? And I said, no. And I'm in the parking lot and all I see is just all this hate. And I could feel my whole body shaking just thinking about it and seeing what's happening. And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do at that point. And so what I ended up doing was hiding. And after all the hate mail, I think I had received over 1,000 pieces of mail, some of which were like, you don't deserve to live. You're a lying piece of shit. And of course, not only did I lose all my sponsors, I lost... I contacted my sponsors prior and let them know, I was like, this is what I did. I understand if you don't want to represent me anymore. Just because I think that was like the last of my dignity at that point. And I just didn't want them to hear it outside of me. And I remember one of them had been like, Reese, we appreciate it and we're going to let you go. And I was like, cool. The other ones were just like, I didn't hear anything from them. I just assumed. And so after that, I turned my Instagram off. I actually quit tattooing for an entire year. And it became not only a self-deprecating, depressive, loss of dignity, disrespect, unworthiness, like in-depth unworthiness. It became like I lost family, and like not family, really good friends that I thought were family, really. And I did have a lot of really beautiful people in the industry that'll reach out and say really nice things to me. I was like really surprised, but then. Of course, there was a lot of hate. So it became this moment and this catalyst in my life where I was like, oh my God, like I can never show my face in this industry again. I can never show it again. And so I took the remainder of 2016, because this happens like early 2016. And I took the remainder of 2016 and into 2017 I thought I was going to become a yoga instructor. And I couldn't even admit it to my yoga class. And the day, I think it was like our last week out of like the 8 months that we were together doing my yoga teacher training, I admitted it. And it was just like this big group hug. And it was like the first time I ever felt like I could offer myself a little compassion and forgiveness. And I realized in all of that, I was like, I still desire to be in the tattoo industry. And there's something in my heart that really desires to do better. But I was too scared to open up my own Instagram. And so I kind of hid behind my studio's Instagram at the time and posted tattoos, but never with my face. I even remember posting tattoos with my shop's card in there so nobody thought that I would steal again. It was like, oh my God, I was so scared. And it got to the point where I was so afraid. I would get almost panic attacks from opening the Instagram because I was so afraid of what someone might say or if someone found me out or something. And there were a few people that did. They were like, oh, hiding behind your shops, they would say things. And I was just like, and my whole body would just go into frozen mode. And everything that people would say, I believed I deserved. Even the parts where they're like, you should kill yourself and things like this. Like, it was really to a point where I had such a low self.
Rock bottom.
Yeah.
You hit rock bottom.
Well, I call it the gift of rock bottom.
Yeah, and it is.
I call it the
and I know
gift
we're
of
going to
rock
head there
bottom.
next. And this is what's so cool about this.
And so actually, it's a whole reason why I am a spiritual business and life mentor is because of this very reason. I look at this as my gift of rock bottom because of the fact that if it wasn't for this to happen, there's no way that I would be in this position that I'm in now. And I remember 2017 went by, I came back into the industry in 2017, kind of started to show back up, opened up my Instagram 2018, and I still was so scared. And then I realized how scared I was. And I was like, I'm going to, and I had done a lot of therapy, a lot of mentorship, a lot of books, a lot of prayers, and a lot of meditation by this point. And I was like, I'm ready to just own. I'm ready to own this because I just don't want it to own me anymore. And so what ended up happening was that I did an IG live and I was just like, I'm going to full send this and I'm going to talk about this. And I talked about it. And it was the first time that I had ever felt that some of its power over me was no longer over me. And so I continued to talk about it and share my vulnerability. And it was mostly for me. It was like, let me just share my truth. Let me just share what I've been in through this industry. And maybe some people would say that they've never done anything before, but how we've all have some sort of relation and relatability to the fact that owning our shit and how scary that is and walking with our fear and changing the relationship we have with our fear is actually going to turn your insecurities, your shame into power and into unapologetic self-expression. And that's became my thing. And actually ended up happening in 2019 where that same artist ended up reposting that photo, reposting, hey, this is what Reese did, back in the day. And, it was like 2016 all over again. Everybody started hating on me. And it was the first time where I responded back to him and I said, thank you. I was like, thank you. I commented back, I reposted his thing, and I was like, I just want to say thank you for doing this, for calling me out, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be the artist I am today. I also wouldn't be where I am today in my own healing and my own spiritual growth. And I wouldn't be so committed to myself and the relationship that I have with myself. And it was so interesting because the last thing I expected to happen was for anybody to be like, that was awesome. But we ended up all these comments started happening where people were like, this is absolutely incredible, Reese. I love how you're owning this. You should take this down. They were getting mad at him for having it up. They're like, why are you bringing this back up? And I was like, that's not the point. And he deleted it. It was so interesting. I wasn't expecting anybody to delete it, first off. It was not, that was so lost on me. And then that's when I realized that that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I desire, because I had a life coach, a spiritual guide, and I also had mentors, business mentors as well at the time, where I was like, I desire to do something similar and help people turn their shame into power.
Dude, okay. Let me stop you there for a second. So that's a really beautiful story. I did not know that about you. This is all happening to me in real time. It's a very interesting story, very beautiful story, and it just has so many layers to it. We all want to change, right? I mean, everybody wants to become something different. I mean, maybe not everybody, but most people are always thinking about next year, I'm going to be more in shape. Next year, I'm going to become this. But I guess the more as you were talking, I was thinking about it, and the first step to change is the burning down of whatever the is, right? Honesty around the isness of whatever it is.
Yep.
And secondarily, I talk a lot about empathy, compassion, and forgiveness, only because as I look around at the world today, especially with social media and cancel culture, I just feel like we've really got to, as a species, start allowing forgiveness. The people are being shut down for a moment. In a moment of weakness, a moment of insecurity, you can call it couple moments, but really you got this large life. You had a couple moments where you were feeling insecure, less than, scared, afraid, and you made a bad decision. I challenge anybody out there listening to the show right now, write me if you've never in a weak moment done something silly when you felt that way. I know I have. It wasn't posting somebody else's work, but it was other stupid shit that I had to admit to, ask for forgiveness. And to me, anybody, and now this is taking out crazy acute shit, right? There's probably somebody out there like, my neighbor raped my daughter. Okay.
Oh my God.
I know. I don't know why I went so big. But I'm trying to illustrate, you know what I mean? There are certain crimes that
I agree.
I don't want to debate. And I still think probably forgiveness needs to happen there too, somehow, some way, even if it's from a distance. But let's just take that off the table. We're talking about the normal dumb shit some of us do in life. Too drunk at a bar, cussing your loved one out, doing whatever your bullshit was.
Yeah.
Normal life stuff. To me, anybody that can admit to it honestly, and you did it publicly, say, I'm going to change my ways, I'm going to be a different person. In my book, you're forgiven.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I think that makes me, more enthusiastic about seeing what you're going to do next. And I know we're going to get, because you've done a lot since then, but I'm talking in that moment, I wasn't a part of that. I missed it somehow, but I would have been one of the first to be like, okay, now, would I be cautious around you? Probably for a bit.
Totally.
Let's make sure that what you said, what you meant it.
Yeah.
And now we know years later, you did mean it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just, you teach a lot of things, but a big part of what you teach is authenticity.
Yeah.
Finding out who you really are. And the thing is, when you really find out who you really are, you are going to have people who don't like who you really are.
Oh, yeah.
100%. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to be the person that everyone likes, well, now you're going to have to be kind of fake. But so you're teaching authenticity. And I really think it's cool that you have this history because you're teaching something you went to the bottom with. You made the ultimate crime. You suffered. I can't imagine what that year was like. I mean, the depression and the anxiety and all the stuff you went through. So to have gone through that makes you a perfect teacher to teach the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So, and you're holding true, and I know that's what you are today. So I just want to say all that because I was really inspired by your move on this because I don't think a lot of people would have done that.
No, and it's funny because it's one of those stories where most people are like, well, why do you continue to talk about it? Like, why do you continue to let people know that's what you did? And I'm like, well, listen, like if I'm really going to be the coach or the mentor that tells you to go follow your soul and to follow your heart and follow your truth, how am I able to do that without owning my own? And so it's one of those things that with this, like with that truth, I am here because of that reason. Like I have seen for me this inner wealth as a whole human, as a whole artist that has come into fruition. I mean, personally, I believe it's one of the biggest reasons when it got me into meditation and really to self-healing and getting a better relationship to myself. I got to know what success looks like in my life. I got to know what my artistic style looks like in my life. I got to know exactly who I wanted to call into my tattoo chair. I knew exactly who I wanted in my shop. Getting to know yourself is the most it's the best thing you can do for your life and for your business because of the fact that I know exactly who I am. I know exactly who I'm going to call in. And the more that I can accept that aspect of me, accept all of my human, I'm absolutely going to honor not only boundaries, but I'm also going to honor the fact that I can love and love and accept myself and never reject myself because of others rejecting me. And that became like my whole catalyst and for the mission that I have on this planet. When I was tattooing, there was no purpose behind it. It was just like, I just want to do cool art. And I love that. And I love that for people. But now it's like a whole movement behind it. The people that come to me are people that desire to feel more authentic in their own bodies. And oftentimes it's people that are like, I've always wanted a tattoo, but I just never could, or this or that. And now I just feel like I can because of your message. Like you empower. And like, that's the whole point, I think, really is like finding that space of purpose that drives you, that motivates you, that gets you up in the morning. And for me, this was that. It was like, oh, I have a mission on this planet. I was meant to go through these things. And, I'll be really honest because that's just who I am. When you talked about rape, when I was a little girl, I was sexually abused by an older boy, 18, I was 7 for years. And I still had so much forgiveness for him after that had happened. I have a whole forgiveness. So when you talk about forgiveness, I'm like, I'm here as a catalyst of something that could be so bad. And I remember thinking, like, I'm glad it was me over any of the other girls in the house because of this reason, because I'm strong enough. And I believe that's why I'm here on this planet, is because I am strong enough to hold this. I am strong enough to be the leader in this, and I don't mind. And if people are going to hate on that, I can take it because I love me, and I know how to hold that because I understand how to hold duality. I understand how to hold my doubts and insecurities, and also like my celebrations and my accolades. Like, this is what we get to do as a human, and that's really like what this whole life's about. I just happen to do it in the tattoo industry because that's where I love to be.
That's incredible that you found forgiveness for that person that did that to you. I mean, it's huge. Very rare that you see that. I think a lot of times people mix up forgiveness with allowance, right? So the idea is, if I maintain my resentment towards the person that wronged me, it protects me. Because to forgive them means I'm saying it was okay. And, oh, by the way, others can do it to me too.
Yeah.
And it's not the case. And you can forgive from a distance too. I mean, you don't have to maybe go find that gentleman and tell him your truth, but in your heart, you've let it go. And by letting it go, you've let go of that resentment frequency, because we all attract whatever we vibrate at. If you're walking around watching MMA all day, thinking about fist fights and thinking about fighting. I had a guy that worked for me that was like this. He's like, I don't get it, man. Every time I go to the bar, someone always wants to fight me. And I'm just like, you're just orating fight mode, and nothing against MMA. I actually love the sport. I shouldn't have probably mixed that sport in with that. I'm just trying to make an example that if you don't find that forgiveness, you're just going to attract a similar situation in a different circumstance eventually,
Sure.
And forgiving isn't allowing. You can forgive and have very strict boundaries. And I'm sure you do.
I do. I have very good boundaries.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think your story, it's about tattooing, but who can't relate to this? I think you'd be hard pressed to find a human being who hasn't had something like this, where they did something they're not proud of. They admitted they did something wrong. They asked for forgiveness. And at that point, the only people I have a problem with are the ones that won't give them the grace, give people some grace, give them a shot. So anyway. Go on, but forgiveness isn't allowance, I guess.
But
is my point.
And I love that too. It's like when we look at it from a forgiveness perspective, it's like you're absolutely right when it comes from like the resentment aspect. Like, if I'm walking around with all this resentment in my heart, I'm giving my power away to that person.
Yeah.
I'm here as a sovereign being. Like, I am sovereign. I own my power. I understand that what happened to me was an unfortunate thing, but at the same time, I do not let my past dictate my present nor my future. And the more that I hold that resentment, that's all it does, is I'm literally taking my past and moving it into my present and moving it into my future. And that's boring to me. It's fucking boring, because I'm like, I'm not going to let that person, I'm not going to continue to live in my past. Yeah. And actually what ended up working out was that nobody believed me that this happened, my parents included. Culturally, I understand. I love you, Mom. I understand. Filipina, I'm sure she saw it a lot in her life. So for her, I understand. So I have a lot of forgiveness for everybody in my life. I have no resentment. But what ended up happening was that I was able to have my moment where, unfortunately, it happened again, and I was able to testify against him. So even though I forgave him, of course I'm going to tell, you're wrong, brother. Yeah. You can't be doing that shit.
It's that is absolutely,
this is a boundary. And so I was absolutely happy to testify and to help out this other young woman. And so it was just one of those things where it felt really, that's the empowering part. And it's funny because it's like, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to see how all the things are connecting. I'm like, okay. And so I'm just willing to, at this point, it's like, okay, what is my truth? Where can I utilize this to truly create this momentum in my life to give me fulfillment and purpose? Because that's what I believe we all have. Like, we have, I'm very huge on the chakra system, the chakra system or energy center system, where our sacral is like our creative zone. That's like, where we make babies. It's like, that's where we're creating things. And so I'm going to be pulled by pleasure, and amazingness and what I'm excited about and this fulfillment, and not be almost avoidant of fear. And so I want to move through life in this way of moving toward pleasure versus an avoidance of fear.
Ah, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in hearing your story has kind of set you up perfectly to be a teacher of these things, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something you've awakened to is, looking at your whole surroundings and being like, why did these things happen to me? Well, perhaps they happened to you so you could be this.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
again, there are acute things that happen that I think we have to take off the table. That are truly just, next level. And I don't know what you do with some of that next level stuff, but and honestly, what happened to you as a child, that's pretty next level, actually.
Yeah.
And getting, and I know you didn't need it, but getting some recognition that you weren't a liar, that must have felt a little bit good. Like, because no one was believing you. And then the guy finally, you're like, fucking told you.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, you were right.
I think there was a part of me that just felt it was, maybe I did ask for it. Maybe this
hear
was,
that a lot,
and
yeah.
it's like that is a very, when you're a young girl, and
I mean, you're
I was 7, 8, 9. So it was like, it was one of those interesting things where, it just became one of those things where I was like, you have all these thoughts. And I think it was that sense of that happening, actually what got me into getting tattoos, because tattoos became my armor. It made me feel confident, made me feel strong. And I was a heavily tattooed CPA before I became a tattoo artist. And then being in the tattoo world and almost feeling like that sense of like getting on TV and then being hated on in television, it almost like felt like I brought myself back to that little girl. And so that's why in my work, I love to go in and really talk about parts work. I do a lot of healing somatic work, inner child work, because of the fact that when we can change those relationships with the parts of ourselves that are telling us like, you're not enough, you're unworthy, you can't have this, like all of these things that limits our abilities, which is incredibly untrue because everybody has the most limitless potential within them. You cannot talk me out of it. I don't care who you are.
I agree.
I don't care
I agree
who
with
you
you
are.
on that.
And so it's like with this, we just stack limitations on ourselves in this human existence. And I really, truly believe it's all about just peeling the onion layers of healing right off and allowing ourselves to remember who the fuck we are.
And it should be said that you are a certified trauma counselor. Did I say that right?
Yeah. So I'm a certified somatic trauma healer and a therapist.
Okay.
So I got my both certifications probably a few years ago because I started to talk to people in the chair so deeply that I was like, I want to be mindful of what's happening and what I'm saying, even though I've had a lot of therapy and things like this. So I wanted to get certified in this. And it's actually a lot of the work that I bring into with the artists that I work with as a spiritual business and life mentor. So it became probably one of the most unique parts of my work where we actually do somatic healing and trauma therapy in our sessions versus just here, let me teach you how to be good at business, or here's some mindset work and stuff like this. We actually like go in the body and really like reprogram the subconscious mind and really understand like where our thoughts and our beliefs are really coming from, and honoring those places that are there and never shaming. Like I'm here to like release shame for everybody. Like I think that that's like the biggest thing that we're missing in this world just in general. And I just so happen to be in the culture of tattooing because I see it so much. And this is always the biggest thing. And the reason why I teach social media a lot is because of the fact that that's like the first place it happens. But when we start to see where the insecurities are with social media and we start to peel back, it starts to come down to the whole part of what we believe about ourselves. And that's where the real juice is. Like that's where the real good shit is, where you're just like, oh my gosh, you're about to unlock something so deep and yummy. And I'm so excited for you, but it's so hard. And so they want to chalk it up to being like, I'm shy, I'm introverted, and that's that. And it's like, but when they're willing and you see them unlocking and then their eyes start to open, they take the horse blinders off of their face and they're just seeing a world with like brand new eyes. They're like, oh, wow, I'm actually really capable of a lot of amazing things. And I'm like, yes. So it's like my work is just like, I love it. This is where I feel most joy in my body is when I see people seeing their own life in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, to be that for others is always huge. I've had my micro moments. I don't do it for a living like you do, but yeah, how rewarding to be able to help people at that level. And again, how much your life story puts you in a perfect position to be someone who could speak with relative authority around how to heal your, trauma. You had your own trauma, those three. I mean, and shame. I mean, your TV show getting hated on, then the reposting getting hated. I mean, you had to move through some to get through those things and to be the person I see in front of me today. I don't know the work you've done, but I know you've done it.
Yeah.
Because I can feel you. It's like nobody could sit there with those bright eyes and that positivity oozing out of them without having done the work. So you've done the work. And then once you've done the work, it's easier to teach others how to do some of that work. And that's cool that you're doing that. Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
And I think on your, there's a lot that you do. And I want to kind of highlight some of it. I know that you practice meditation. Do you have a specific type of practice that you partake in?
All kinds. So I believe that we play 3 different games on this planet. We play the 3 different games in this world. We play the inner game, which is the identity game. We play the energetic game, the quantum game. And then we play the material game, the strategy game. And so how we move, so the inner game informs the energetic game informs the strategy game. So we first start with the inner game. So for me, it's always like meditation, somatic, in the body. So anything in the body, breath work, parts work. So parts work being like going in there, differentiating the different parts of you that has a different say. Like we have a round table in our minds. Like there's a lot of voices going on in there. Yeah. And sometimes we all just believe it's us. And so when we can kind of separate them and kind of look from an observer's point of view and looking down at ourselves and being like, oh, actually, this is just one part of me. And this is just one part of me. And so I look at it like you're driving a bus. You really want your highest self to drive the bus. But sometimes your inner child's really scared of something. So the ego comes up and tries to turn the wheel for you. It's like, nope, we're not going that way. We want to stay comfortable. And what ends up happening is that we don't realize that it's not us, our highest self driving this bus. It's like a part of us. And we think it's us. And so what we do is we go in there, differentiate the different parts and heal the relationships with ourselves. It's like basically reparenting the inner child, the inner teen, inner young adult, all the kind of different parts of ourselves in there. And so that's one meditation that I love to go through. And then the second one would be, of course, the quantum. Who doesn't love to connect to their future self or to the future that they desire? Because, of course, that's what magnetizes, right? That vibrational level. And so we go in there and we start to see what it is that we desire, what it feels like. And when we say somatic, it's like, I feel it in my body. That's, oh, I already felt it. Like when we think about money's a big one. It's always like, what does it feel like to have it? It feels like freedom. It feels like stability, safety. And what I'm doing is that I want you to recreate that feeling within the body to know that you actually create it within yourself first in order to call it in. The soulmate clients, as I like to call them, or the tattoo business as you'd want, or something of that nature. And so it all starts from here. And so it's like that way we get the inner game. This way we're touching the quantum, we touch our future, we touch the potential that we know we have, and then we move in the material game. So when we have these 2 pieces, we move in the material game, and all of a sudden, we're not moving in avoidance of fear. We're not moving because of what one part of us is like afraid of. Oh, I'm afraid to be seen. It's like, no, actually, yeah, I'm still afraid, but I move with that fear instead of moving away from it. And that's what changes the strategy in the material game in the real world here.
Yeah, I've heard it said different ways similar to that, but I couldn't agree more. I mean, it is how, I love this type of material. I've read philosophical books my whole life, and I've done my own soul searching and meditation work and work with hallucinogenics. And I guess people like us, they call us seekers or whatever. Yeah. Sometimes I've had friends say to me, like, it's almost like they're like, are you lost? Why is it always about this stuff? And I'm like, well, simply put, I think it's the most interesting thing going on, frankly. I mean, look, I haven't gotten over the fact that I'm here. I mean, it's like, look around, dude, what is this? So investigating what this is just really interesting to me. I think when I was younger, the seeking might have come more from being insecure and not understanding so much about myself. And I had to, read these books and practice these practices to try to get more grounded. It's turned more into just enjoyment. I just enjoy the seeking, walking the path, meeting people like you, learning more about how this universe works. But in that journey, I sometimes have been going a little bit away from words like manifestation and even spirituality. because one, they're loaded words, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people it means so many different things to so many different people. You could say, oh, my spiritual work. Well, you're talking to a guy that went to some strict Christian school where the nuns used to whip him across his hand. So immediately that's a negative word,
Totally.
So, and also, the longer I play with this stuff, I just don't think it's anything like that. I think it's just like the universe is like a machine, and it works just on rules. And if you play by the rules, your life's better. It's the mechanical way the universe works, and these things do work. And I just think that's a better way to look at it, for me at least, and also to get people to maybe people that wouldn't listen more. But the reality is, when you can do the things you just said, good things happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they just do. And you don't have to believe that there's spirit guides in the clouds above you. You don't have to believe in, frankly, gods and devils and demons and angels. And it's cool if you do. Bringing that into your belief system enhances and imbues it to bring it more power, then great. But I honestly think that's just the way the universe works. And you either play by, it's like an engine in a car. You can put water in there and it ain't going to run it's not going to run at all. Or you can put gasoline and it'll run great. So that's a good way to do it. I like those three, the way you've broken that into 3 sections. And it does start inside, and then it starts in that future, which is quantum, which is you got to create that vision. Like, what do I look like? What does my life look like? And then I like the fact you added that layer of the meditation part of it, where you are encouraging the person to feel the emotion. And if you close your eyes and get quiet enough and you visualize you're in this certain house and maybe you want a family and there's your kids playing in the yard and you got this great job and money's if you just, it's not that, I mean, this is meditation I'm doing right now. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I can't sit still and think of nothing for an hour. And that's one form of meditation, but you'll feel an emotion. You might get goosebumps like, oh, this is fucking awesome. But, many of the books I read is feeling the emotion of your future, of the goal or whatever it is you're trying to attain is literally the fuel that empowers the vibration to make it actually happen. The emotional, feeling that emotional component, So I like that you threw that in there, because I do think a lot of people don't talk about that much. And I think it's crucial to the ingredients to get what you want in life.
Yeah.
Is feeling that emotion.
I think that I look at it from a perspective of like you're just having a memory of your future. Like when you put it in your body, you already see it. Your subconscious doesn't understand the difference between what's not actually happening and what's just in your mind. And so that's how you shift your vibration. That's how you shift your energy. And that energy calls in, or, what it is that you're focusing on, right? Energy flows where your attention goes. So it's like, if I'm focusing on not being broke and I'm so scared of being broke and I'm trying not to focus on being broke, your subconscious only sees being broke. It doesn't say, oh, we're not trying to be broke. It's like, oh, she wants to focus on being broke. Like, okay, well, let's focus on that. It doesn't understand. It just follows you. That's how beautiful your subconscious is. It's like that intuitive part of you, that subconscious part of your brain. It's like it honestly just wants to work for you. And we can actually train it in this way. And it's so interesting. It's so interesting because what I love about meditation and breath work. It teaches you how to do something that's already automatic and brings it conscious. So what happens is when you take a breath, you do it automatic. We never even think about how life force energy just constantly comes in and out of our bodies every day, every moment, every second. We breathe 14 breaths, I believe, in like a minute. And when you can get so focused on that breath, what you're doing is you're telling your subconscious mind that I desire control in this moment. And when you do that, what happens is that you consciously tell your subconscious that I'm ready to take control of the beliefs, of the things I'm doing, and you can literally reprogram it from that space. So when we do meditation and we get good and practice, what tattooing is a practice, showing up online is a practice, me telling my truth is a practice, it's all a practice. It's like, so when I can get a hold of that breath and do something that's normally automatic, or, any of the thoughts that come in your mind that's negative and all of these things about yourself that's negative. It's like, if I can just get aware of that, you can actually shift exactly what it is you do want to believe about yourself. And that's how we shift our self-concept. And so for me, it's like, why not just try that? Like, why not just give it a shot? Like I always tell people 30 days. Just try it, 30 days. Try it for 30 days and see what happens. See the shift in your own body, in your own awareness, in your tattoos. I truly believe that meditation is the biggest reason why I've gotten better at my tattoos, because I'm so intentional now. I'm like so focused. I'm like, oh, this and this and this, instead of letting my brain go like this. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? And so it's like this like intention to focus changes everything in your life. And you actually, that's where time, when people say, I never have any time goes by so fast. It's like, actually, that's where you can slow time down. And it's so interesting. Something I'm really, really passionate about. I'm like, how can I have the longest day ever? You know?
I think about that one a lot. You said something in there. Why not? Why would someone not want to try that for 30 days? And there's a lot of reasons, but I mean, a big one I think is we become very attached to our identity and what it's connected to, our story, so it might seem subtle, but what you're asking someone to do is subconsciously they know you're asking them to let go of who they think they are. And in that story of who they think they are, they might have a good excuse for not having success. They have a victim story. Well, I could tell you exactly why I don't have what I want in life. This happened to me and this happened to me. So you're asking someone to let go of that. So I think that's a big part of why. Even though, why wouldn't you want to do the work to let go of that and move on to the new you? But it's, again, it comes back to that, like, you can't just become the new thing. You've got to let go of the old thing.
Yeah. I think for me, the way I like to teach the people that I run in my spaces is that you don't have to let go of anything. You can keep it. Let's just get aware of it.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way to put it.
Let's just get aware of it. You can absolutely keep it. Because
awareness, basically... That's a little, you're tricky.
Yeah,
I like that.
Because
if you get the awareness, you know what happens next. It dies.
Yeah. You're like,
it withers on the vine. You're not watering it.
Well, do I want this?
Well,
I'm looking at this. Does this feel good in my body to think or believe this? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so when people tell me they're trying, I'm like, I love it. And I'm always like this. I'm always like, I want you to love on every single part of you. And I want you to accept that. So if we can just get aware of what we're accepting, it's perfect. But then once they get aware of it, and when they truly do that type of work, they're like, oh my goodness. All of a sudden they're like, I actually really don't like this part. And I really would like to release this because I feel like this is the part that's holding me back. But there's safety in that. There's safety in what they believe in their identity. And I would never want to remove that safety. That's traumatic. That's a traumatic thing. I'm not trying to traumatize you further. Right. So all I'm trying to do is just be like, I want you to love on every single part of you. And we're going to look at the shadows. This is the wounds. This is the shadow work. If anybody's ever heard of that, it's like, that's what we're doing. Let me just shine the light on the shadows. That's it. Because we always put the things in the shadows we deem, or society deems, unacceptable. And we put things in the light that we think are acceptable. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, how about we just own both? This is duality. This is the law of polarity, right? We're talking about polarity. So it's like, yes, I'm going to love all parts of myself and accept it and not change a thing. But the byproduct of looking is change. So
yeah, aware. We talked earlier about some of the work of Miguel Ruiz and Miguel Ruiz Jr. And I was like, yeah, the Four Agreements is like my Bible. And you were like, me too. And we both love the teachings of the Toltecs. And, the Buddhists teach it too. And a lot of other philosophies and religions teach it. Well, I wouldn't say religion as much, but a lot of philosophies teach. And it's just this idea of being a steward of your thoughts, right? Yep. And just in accepting that idea, you've already created separation. Just by saying, there's my thoughts, and then there's the observer of the thoughts. Because we can all do that. Try it. You can have a thought like, oh, I hate LA traffic. Okay. Well, you can just be the person who, that's it. Or you can be the person who looks at that and goes, look at that. Look at that thing. Someone's talking in my head saying they hate LA traffic. And now you've created that bit of separation. And that's a practice I deeply try to stay embedded in. I'm always... they just pop up. The weirdest shit just pops in your head. Yeah. And then I just look at it and decide, I don't even decide. I just create that separation. And then slowly the thoughts, you become a curator and you start looking at it more like, no, that thought, okay, I acknowledge you. And now I'm going to move to a different thought because, you might have that same negative thought 5 times that day. And you're just like, okay, I heard you. It's like a little kid in the classroom, like, we heard you. Can we move on to somebody else in the classroom now? Oh, you have your hand up. What would you like to say? I'm beautiful and I seek wealth and prosperity. All right. I'm going to pay more attention to this student over here.
Yeah.
So it's just moving that attention around and being a steward of your thoughts. And I think the Four Agreements, really eloquently explains that one. But you're right, man. Just those thoughts in your head that talk all day long aren't you. They really aren't.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, they're probably, you could call it your ego or whatever. And they're there to keep us alive, to keep us away from, it's just a lot of old programming from being ancient man, where you probably had to think about scary shit a lot to stay vigilant.
Oh, yeah.
Most things were going to kill you. You were going to starve because you didn't store enough food for winter. There was predators outside. There was a neighboring tribe that you knew was always trying to figure out how to come in and take over your shit. I mean, this is human existence for thousands of years. And only lately, and again, for us, we live in a very lucky part of the world. So I don't want to... just say it in a way like, I realize there's people who probably are still in that situation where they have to wake up every day and really be thinking about shit that could go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not there, you're not there. But yet those programs are still operating, and we're in fight or flight mode most of the time. But yeah, creating that separation, realizing those thoughts aren't you. And then you can decide which thoughts you want to imbue with your attention. Attention is like, water to a garden. Where you place it, things grow. Yeah. So if you're placing it on, kind of negative thoughts, those things are going to grow, and those things are going to eventually become your reality. More of your reality. I'm just backing. You already said it, but I just wanted to put one more layer on it. I love it. I couldn't agree with you more. I could not agree with you more.
I think this is the reason why we're having this conversation in the first place. Is that we have very similar outlooks on life, and similar beliefs, where we're like, this work is. And it honestly, it makes my whole heart crack open to have conversations like these more and more, because, even with all of the things, the myriad of things that have happened in my very young existence still, it's like, I have so much faith in humanity. I root for us, and people are like, you are crazy. And I'm like, I know, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, but if you believe thoughts create reality, boy, you better anchor into that thought, because if you don't, then
oh gosh,
what happens next? If most of the planet's thinking we're fucked tomorrow, my opinion is we're fucked tomorrow. So yeah, I do believe thoughts in the end manifest physical reality.
Sure.
I often say we're in a simulation. I think it is some kind of simulation. I mean, the quantum physicists can almost prove it. They get down to a molecular quantum level and they can't even find matter. All they find is energy.
Oh my gosh, don't even start with me when it comes to neuroscience.
It just fucks your head up, because you grab a table and you're like, that's not...
This is actually not real. It's not material. Real. It's energy so focused together that it just becomes something solid, quote unquote. I love this understanding that we're coming to, and I find it so interesting how people still don't want to understand it. And that's okay, because I truly believe, I have a program I'm going to call The One, because I'm going to just base it off of Neo and the Matrix. It's really just how we understand that it's wonderful to be in the Matrix. We actually get to, I'm getting to at this point. I'm choosing this at this moment. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, right? So it's but at the same time, it's we got to remember that we're here, and that we got to remember that everything is actually not what it seems to be. And when we can kind of even just touch it, not even have to try to wrap our heads around it, because sometimes our tiny little brains are just I can't understand or compute this. It's even if we just touch it, it's then we enter the realm of potentiality and the realm of possibility versus the realm of predictability. It's everything's predictable. I know a lot of people want predictability, but yet we all desire a magic and a miracle thing to happen. We're oh my gosh, I want the best. In my world, it's I want the, really successful tattoo business. I want to make XYZ money. I want this, and that. And it's okay. But if we're living in the realm of predictability, then how are we ever going to get into the realm of possibility or potentiality unless we expand what we believe is real or what we believe is possible, And so it's if I can believe that this table actually doesn't exist because it's just energy, then what else could be possible? What else is potential? And if science can prove this, I'm okay, well, I'm going to back it up with science, right? A lot of people say in the spiritual community and science, in the science community too, is that spirituality is just science that we don't have the tools to prove yet. And so it's like one of those things where, for me, spirituality just means I believe in something bigger than myself, which is, I just truly believe that there's a feeling inside of me that's pulling me, and I don't know why it's pulling me in this direction. Why am I a tattoo artist that desires to do this for artists versus anybody else? Why does a finance person want to be a finance person? Why does this person want to be, a camera operator or, run this business? It's like, we're all being pulled to do something that brings balance to this earth. And if we can follow that, then we're really going to do a service to humanity, I think. And so it's like, that's what I believe. And so if we could just get a little bit around the fact that this isn't real, like this is actually energy, and that all of life is energy, then how much more possibility can we bring into our life?
Well, anything really. But I want to add 2 layers that why a big reason I believe why people don't want to go there with we're in a simulation and there's no actual matter when you break it down to its smallest, whatever, all you find is energy. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. If you do get to the point where you can accept that as your truth, you immediately have to accept all the results that have been created up to that point. Because, you're basically saying to somebody, are you ready to take complete responsibility for everything that's ever occurred in your life? And I think for a lot of people, they don't, maybe even on a conscious level, they don't even understand. They can feel you pushing them in that direction. And that's where they're just like, dude, this is all just fucking crazy. Where we go next is, I'm responsible for the job I hated for the last 15 years. That's my fault? That's what you're telling me? I mean, we don't have to get so extreme with you, bud, but because if this other philosophy is true, they have to accept that 15 years ago, they could have walked away from that job and they could have changed their reality and they could have done something else. But you don't understand. I had a wife and she was pregnant. I had to, even those excuses they don't hold water. So that's definitely, I think, a big part of the resistance to this type of thinking is you got to take you're in the driver's seat. You always were. When you get to things like what happened to you when you were 7, I even get confused or hung up. I mean, I personally wonder if there's a karmatic system at play here, like many lifetimes are being lived and things are happening. Because it is difficult when you hear about children and things because you're asking yourself, how is that 3-year-old creating this abusive father?
Totally.
Now, when you get to like grown adults and the job they hate and the marriage they're just at, with all that, I'm more quick to be like, no, dude, I guarantee you in a practical way, I could walk through your last 10 years and show you 15 times where you chose A when you could have chosen B and you didn't. And it's not even like, we don't have to go spiritual land here. It's pretty black and white. You could and you didn't. You could have went to the gym and you didn't. You could have not eaten Doritos all night and you did. So these are the results you've created. But when you get into like the youth and things like that, I'm always, and in that realm, I don't know. I don't ever think I need to know. I don't think it's my job to know, but I do wonder if it's some karma in many lifetimes being lived. And
I think for me, since it is a part of my story, it's one of those things where it's like the creation of it, no. However, obviously it's like an unfortunate thing that happens to someone so young, but it's like, I can see there are parts of me, as I'm young, and this is not saying that I created this or I asked for it or anything like that, but you can start to kind of unfold. There are parts of us that do desire closeness and we do desire, we are taught that abandonment or rejection is death. That's just an immutable, that's our first chakra.
For thousands of years,
thousands of years.
If you got kicked out of the tribe, you died.
You died. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so like a part of the tribe is life. And so when we look at this perspective, of course, manipulation is at hand and we don't know that as children. But it's like, I truly believe that we're just following what is a part of our, like what we feel is like survival. And what's happening in that mode is like that survival. So it's almost like for me in that moment, I can't say what I was thinking or doing. I don't even remember. I think I even honestly just kind of block that part of my life out, which is something I think is so beautiful about the brain, where it's just like, we're going to just keep you safe from having to deal with that. We understand the ins and outs of it. We remember the after effects, and all this kind of stuff. So it's like really like, I do believe that there's this divine protection in that. But I do know that although I didn't ask for it, I do believe that it's a big part of me finding what I needed to do now. And I'm not saying that it is deserved or you can't find your purpose in life without something gnarly happening to you. I don't believe that you need a rock bottom to find that.
It's true.
I truly believe that you can find it in your own way when you do desire to say yes, you know? And so in this moment, I truly, like, there's no real reason, but I do believe that I can turn my past into something that means something really good to me.
Yeah.
And so if I desire to do that, then I can. If I desire to make myself a victim of that, I can. People would fucking applaud me. They'd be like, "You're right. You should feel like this." Like they would be like, "You do that." But I'm only making it better for me because I know what it feels like. And so the way I feel in my body is really important because I know that's how I'm going to lead in this world. Do I want to lead in victimhood? Do I want to lead in resentment, rejection, hate, like woe is me, fuck everybody, everybody's out to get me kind of vibe? And trust me, like I know that I'd be everybody would be like, you're in your right to do that, Reese. You deserve to do that. Of course, you know, I could, or I could choose something different that feels better. And I tell people all the time, your tattoos don't mean shit if you don't want it to mean shit. It could just be a tattoo I just got. Like a lot of my tattoos, I just got them because I liked them, you know? But I'm the meaning maker. You are the meaning maker. You're the permission giver. I'm the permission giver. So it's like at this point, it's like I'm going to give myself the permission to choose a different story for my past and what it means to me. People get that. You have the sovereign right to do that for you. And then that's where I'm at this point. It's like, it doesn't mean, yeah, you created it or whatever. That's really hard. I'm with you on that. But I get to choose what it means for me today. And that's where I'm at.
And yeah. And for the record, I got really stuck up on that for many years. And I arrived where you arrived, where I'm like, oh God, this is just a rabbit hole that never ends. And it produces no goodness for anyone. And so I just kind of, I bring it up on the show because I just want to open that up to a lot of people who might still be in that mindset of thinking. But I think what you said is exactly what I knew you would go with it, which is it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I do think there is I believe it's probably the higher self or whatever who probably guides events in such a way because it knows the life it kind of wants you to walk and be and so it'll create what seems like tragedy around you. But if you look back, if you follow that intuition and you turn it into positivity, most people that are very successful will tell you, yeah, those things were perfect.
Yeah.
They sucked at the time, but there's no fucking way I'd be doing this without that. So thank you. Like you said to that gentleman who called you out. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what we do with it, that's what's important because everyone has some shitty thing that's happened to them, whether it's as extreme as yours or less extreme. But what are you going to do with that?
I find that it's so interesting because I literally I have, I'm about to drop a bomb on you. I just pulled my dad off life support last week on Wednesday. Yeah. And I only smile because I feel so at peace with the decision. I don't think I made it. I think he made it for me. It was just me speaking for him. And because of what I believe in and because of the work that I've done, I was able to move my grief and turn it into creative power. And that's like something I'm realizing that like grief is like towing the line between like the veil of like your highest potential and just like humanness. And when we can just allow ourselves to make meaning to what it's meant, like of course I've gone through the realms of what's happening and how everything's going. But with this, it's like, I feel so good. Like it's people, again, you'd be so well in your right to feel all these things. And I'm like, I know, but I'm going to choose to feel it all and just allow myself to be so accepting of this. And be here and make meaning to what this means to me. I'm so lucky to have a human experience like this because none of us are going to escape someone dying in our lives. And I mean, if that happens, I really feel bad for the people that may be older than you that happens to. We all want to outlive our parents, right? So it's like, I know that like no matter what, it's like in these moments of hardship, the way I lead myself or the way that I know myself, who I am to be in this moment is really what defines what happens in my life. And so I absolutely feel so at peace. Of course, I have a myriad of feelings of feeling like sadness and grief and anger and just like all of these things. Like, why would you make me the permission? Like, why would you make me the decision maker? Like, why would you do that? And having to do all of these things. And I'm just like, and the moment we accept it, we're like, okay, I'm not trying to tell you to change anything. I just want you to accept everything that's happening and open yourself to feeling it. And I truly believe that because my whole vibe is about being a good feeler versus always feeling good, allows me to move through this in a way that feels fucking incredible. And I feel so good. Like when people tell me sorry, I'm like, please don't be sorry that I get to do this in my life. Like this is what I get to do. And it's the first time for me. I still have 2 other parents who are really amazing. And so that's like, this is the first parent that's ever left me. And so I'm like, wow, this is really interesting what I'm going through, and I'm moving through it. And all I desire is just to let it all feel. And if I desired to fall on the ground and cry and scream, I'm going to do it. If I desire to just be a little dazed and confused, I'm going to do it. I'm like, I just was like offering myself so much permission when I got the call that I was like, okay, I'm going to just let it happen, whatever happens. And it became this almost beautiful sense of like closeness with my dad, closeness with God, spirit, the universe, your highest self, whatever you want to call it. And then just this sense of like peace. And so I come here being like, I am the meaning maker. I can make meaning to this. I can let it absolutely be well within my right to let it mean that like I'm going to fall for a week and nobody talk to me vibes. And I absolutely would be in my right. Or I'm going to just turn it into power. And this is where I'm like, I know I'm meant to do this work. This is when I find myself the most, where I'm like, I feel at so much like love for what I'm doing. And he alchemizes my dad. He helps me push me further into my why and my purpose. And it feels so good. And I know he's really proud of me for that. So it's like, this is like, again, it's like meaning, you're the permission giver. You give yourself permission. Don't change a thing. Just notice, just open, accept it. And when we can do that, you have a whole different like life ahead of you because of it.
Wow. That's pretty, that really shows, where you're at as far as you're working with these concepts. I mean, that was a week ago.
Yeah.
I won't say I'm sorry for
Thank
you.
you.
I don't know what words I should use with the person
It's more like a celebration of life. Yeah, we can high five. No,
Glad
it's like
to hear it,
it's a celebration of life, I think,
Yeah,
mostly.
yeah.
And it's like, I think that's like the whole point. What I believe, and who else believes this? It's like one of those things where I'm like, I believe our soul chose to be here, and we're maybe working off some debt. Some people believe. Sometimes they're like, oh, I just want to go through this experience. I want to experience grief. I want to experience hardship or rejection or something like this, so I know how to move through it. Who knows why? But we chose to be here, and I want to like open myself up to feeling the amounts of what the humans feel in an experience like this, instead of trying to only try to feel good, which I mean, is dictated by society and what, like people go on a roller coaster, they feel excited or scared, and it's the same chemical release in the brain. And so it's like, I get to determine what that feeling gets to be like, if it's good or bad. And for me, it's just kind of like, it is. And this is where I get to move with it, and I allow myself whatever I need. And for some reason, what I didn't need was to have space. It was actually to be in community, to be here with you today. It was to be with my community. I taught a class this morning. I was with the students that I teach. I was like, I wanted to be with them. And I was like, okay, this is where I really feel my deepest passion, and know this is where I'm meant to be.
I like what you had to say there. How did you word that? The feeler. Say that part again.
Yeah. Instead of always trying to feel good, becoming a good feeler.
Well, that's cool. I've never heard that put that way before. And that's great, because I mean, the reality is nobody feels good all the time. It's an impossible fucking goal, first of all.
Really.
And if that is your goal, every day you're going to be let down. Like, damn it, another day went by and I wasn't totally feeling rad all day.
Yeah, 100% all day.
Fucking failed again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll try it again tomorrow. Yeah. This time more tequila.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I've tried that method. It doesn't work either, friends. It doesn't. Trust me. But yeah, and I've kind of arrived in that way. Life isn't about feeling good. When good times come, you savor them. And when, in a way, when sadness comes, you kind of savor that.
Oh, yeah.
All of it, and again, if you're viewing life from the perspective of we're here to experience this crazy thing called human existence and earth and reality, seemingly, matter and time. Still question if any of that's real, but I mean, what if if someone was going to create a place to really deepen a developing soul's character, I mean, this seems like a pretty perfect thing.
I'm 100% with you
It's
on
a
that.
little too coincidental.
agree.
I mean, it's probably what it is.
Yeah.
And you probably have souls that are, I don't know what they do up. They might be in different universes doing all things I don't even understand. You might become sound in that one or, not even have physical form or anything. But this one's a specific type of school that seemed to really develop souls' character. And in order to develop character, you're going to have tragedy and death and loss and triumphs and ecstatic moments and love and sex and fire and ice. And, it's perfect for all that. And I think just going at life from that perspective can actually make it more, more joy. If you can find joy in the whole thing, if you looking at it and being, this is pretty, like sometimes I've done a lot of hallucinogenics in my life and I don't do them as much as I used to because the older I get, when I look it all looks like it's trippier than LSD, really. When I look out at reality, like, this is fucking crazy, dude. And I don't know, it's in those moments I can somehow separate myself and not be Aaron anymore. It's like I'm just that 2-year-old kid that didn't even know his name was Aaron yet.
Yeah.
When the years where you looked at a tree, you didn't even know it was called a tree, but you still just were like, you walked up and touched it. Like, what is this thing? Look at this huge thing. And then you see the little 2-year-olds do this. I watch my own kids do this. I mean, they're tripping basically. Nothing has a name yet. They touch the grass and you can just see them grip it out in this, it's just like a 35-year-old man on 2 hits of LSD. Well, that's what they do too. It just takes you back to being a 2-year-old. But really that fascination towards this ride can go away as we get older because everything gets a name and a label and everything has a meaning. Most of those meanings are told to us by our culture and our society and our parents and our bosses and whoever else. And then we agree to it. And you don't have to agree to any of that stuff. You just realize those were agreements you made. You can disagree at any time, and you're really highlighting that. I think you using this thing you just went through with your father and having such a bright, beautiful energy here with me today tells me that you're living in that way a bit. You have to be sitting here like this. Not many people would be here today.
It's funny because my sister, she gets it, she doesn't get it. She's like, you ride unicorns into the sunset, and
I'm gonna sit over here and cry and be miserable.
Exactly, sister.
Yeah.
She has like tattoos on her body that says, "I hate everyone equally." Like she's very much of that nature. But we love her, and she's a nurturer, and so it's just like it's so funny because she sees me and she's like, "I don't get it, but I love you for it. And I want you to stay whatever your juice you're taking." And I'm like, I'm just high on life at this moment. Like I have my moments where it's very like down and I don't feel right. And I should and shouldn't in my life. And I tell, I should be better and this and that. And I have a very high standard of myself. And so it's like, of course I have these. I'm very fucking human. It's not like I don't have like a bad day. Right. Actually, the best part about having a bad day is that I give myself permission to have one. I'm like, I ask my partner all the time, I'm like, I really don't fucking want to deal with today. Can I have a bad day? He's like, let's have a bad day together. And then the moment I allow myself that permission, all of a sudden it's no longer a bad day. It's like an easy fucking day. So it's like, it's just the permission. It's just like acceptance and permission to let myself do whatever happens. I'm like, okay, I'm here. What's going to happen? I'm open to it. I'm not going to fight it. We're just going to move and see what happens. And it's like just allowing myself to have that grace. And the more I offer myself that sense of space, it's like the more I actually don't need to do what society tells me I need to do when death happens or when this happens or when that happens. It's just like, oh, I actually get to make my own choices, which is so weird because you're like, sometimes you do like it when people make your choices. You're like, oh, I actually do have responsibility. Like you said earlier, it's like, do I really want to take full responsibility for everything that's happening? But I think it's the most beautiful thing you do because then you get to kind of just like be cool with pretty much anything. Maybe, you look back, whatever. It's like, I think it's just like offering space for your human, really.
Yeah. And it's okay to be sad, and it's actually, I've met some people that are on the path that, they seem to even skip that part. And I think there's a trap there too. It's like, I'm so enlightened. I never even feel sad. No, it's when people get stuck in it. Be sad, be pissed off. as much as I believe in no resentment, someone screws me over, I might have a couple days where I'm like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, anger's a good thing.
Yeah, like I need 2 days of fuck him.
Anger is so good.
But eventually, I always have that moment. I'm like, okay, I did that, and I'm not going to hold on to this anymore.
Right.
That person who did that, they were once a 2-year-old little baby, innocent. Life happened for whatever reason. That person's doing that. It happened to me. I now have a different boundary around me, and I forgive them. What's next? Love the things that love you back. Move ahead. Yeah, it's getting stuck in it. But yeah, you got to feel things too, along the way. But that's really cool, man. Yeah, I do think that you have a lot to offer.
Thank
You've got a lot to share. You're here to do this work, and I think you got the right game plan. I was curious to see how you would break it down today. And not that I'm a genius in any of this, but I've read a lot of books. I've been to a lot of seminars. I spent a lot of time researching this stuff, and I think you've got a good set of rules and ways of working through with people on how to get clear of their shadow selves, on how to let go of these resentments, on how to get focused on your quantum self, and how to eventually, I'm not going to use the word manifest, but wake up in it. Just wow. And patience, everybody. That's the one thing I've learned too with this game is you just got to be patient. You can't just change shit and then a year from now be like, how come I'm not a millionaire? How come I'm not married? Whatever your patience,
But urgency is the ego. Like, I think that if you're urgently trying to get to this one point, that's just your ego talking, because you're saying that it's not fast enough. It's not happening for you fast. It's like, if we can't honor our own journeys, it's like, that's really where it's going to suck you dry, because you're just going to constantly be chasing the next thing, and it's not going to be fulfilling once you get there anyway. Yeah. But you can say that all day long and nobody's going to understand it until it happens to them. I just think it's one of those things where, the way we move, the way we, like you said, it's like we get the inner game, we touch the quantum, we understand ourselves. It's like, it's not even really manifesting at this point. It's really like, I'm actually taking action from a place, from a space that feels really good to me, that it's in alignment to my joy and what feels fucking good. Like, I want to move towards something that feels fucking good, but so many people are afraid of moving toward what feels good because they're afraid of letting go of this, or maybe that there's this fear of like, well, I have to do something different, you know what I mean? Or I have to do this or that.
Or I don't deserve it.
Yeah, or I don't deserve it. And so it's just like, at this point, it's like, really, all the feelings are good, right? Be a good feeler. It's not about feeling good. And actually, there's a trade-off to that too, because the more I feel one side, right, polarity, the more I'm going to feel the goodness. So it's the more that I'm allowing myself to feel the sadness, the anger. And anger is really good, by the way. It's telling your body is basically telling you need a fucking boundary. So if you have anger, it just means, where did I not put up a boundary? Yeah. Where do I need to put one up? And I need to honor that boundary, because boundaries are just self-love, And this goes with clients, this goes with people, your friends, other artists. It's like all of these things. And that's really where it's at. Like, if you're having a feeling that people deem negative, anger, resentment, it's just like, because there's a boundary that hasn't been in place put for you. And it's a beautiful sign from your body telling you, we need something in place here.
Agreed.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, boundaries. It's like you catch a little child playing with a lighter and you take the lighter away and they cry. Were you being mean to the child? And there's that layer of, it's actually love to the other too, to put boundaries around for others. You really are helping them to grow, because they're exploiting you or exploiting a situation. You draw the boundary, and it's that tough love moment where they have to be like, this isn't working. You're helping them to understand a better way of living. So it's love for self. It's love for others. Agree. Boundaries are important from all those perspectives. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I love it. And I guess maybe you could just tell people a little bit about, because I know after this, people hear this, they're going to get excited. They're going to want to work with you. And how's that go down? How do people work with you?
Yeah. So you want to follow me? I'm at The Art of Reese on Instagram, pretty much all platforms. I have a podcast as well called The Mind of Reese. It's where I kind of riff off just like this. But if you want to work with me, I have several different containers, which is, I have a base membership, which is like getting a little taste. I always tell people, if you just want to dip your toe in the water and see what it's like, I do daily transmissions in a private Telegram group. They also get access to a lot of programs and a community that's amazing. We love the community in there. I also help tattoo artists and spiritual entrepreneurs grow their businesses by way of leaning into a brand message, which I just shared with you, my brand message, which is my life story on how I found myself into becoming a spiritual entrepreneur, or spiritual tattoo artist, really. And leaning into your own stories, lived and alive stories, accepting, and then actually utilizing that to promote an actual brand and message, so that when we take that brand and message and put it out into the online space, we utilize that and create a community, and that community bandwagons, which is the bandwagon effect, to get you more clients into your space. So I teach tattoo artists how to really create success and wealth in their businesses from both other programs that I have within my wheelhouse. So so there's plenty of places where people can plug in and play. You just, if you want to DM me or anything like that, I'm here. And yeah, just thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. My pleasure to have you on today. So there you have it, everybody. That's how you find Reese. You've already heard what she's all about. If any of that resonated or you felt something tingle inside of you, take action. What do you got to lose? What do you have to lose? Just she has a program where you can literally dip your toe in the water. Give it a shot. So thank you for coming, especially considering how crazy life's been this last week for you. Could have easily canceled on me and you didn't. So really, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful ohm we ripped this morning together.
We did rip an ohm today. We did rip an ohm. It was good. It felt vibrationally good.
I'm glad we started that way.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe on that note, we'll close this one with another yoga term. We put our hands together.
Okay.
And with namaste.
Namaste.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. Everybody, I just want to take a moment. I've had a lot of you reach out and be like, how did you do that? You know, because the reality is I had no idea how to build a podcast. I had no idea how to produce it. I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. And I was lucky enough to meet Michelle Renee. Her and her daughter, Bria, and her brother, Eric, they are the core heartbeat of Verb Media Group. And I just have to say, they've been the best. This show is here because of them. If any of you guys are out there thinking about trying a stab at what I'm doing, or maybe you already do something like this, I would highly recommend these guys. Solid gold, verbmediagroup.com. Check them out.